Tips for keeping and breeding shrimp. Let's go over my top tips for keeping and breeding freshwater dwarf shrimp. Welcome everyone, it's Ray from RW Aquarium Pages, capturing my journey in planted aquariums, shrimp tanks, and everything in between. Keeping and breeding shrimp is very rewarding, watching the wild chaos when they're feeding to an elaborate ecosystem with a planted tank, sometimes with and sometimes without fish. I've been keeping and breeding shrimp since around 2002, and I've had many failures and successes. I'm going to review some of my top tips to ensure that you're successful. Let's start with the basics. My 3 pillars of shrimp keeping. 1. Quality shrimp. 2. Water parameters within range. And 3. Patience. Afterwards, I'll provide even more tips to ensure your success. Quality shrimp. Ideally, you'll be able to inspect the source and the colony of the shrimp in person. If not, ask for photos and videos of your shrimp that you'll be receiving so there won't be any surprises. Price usually correlates with quality, but sometimes it doesn't, so please be careful. There are lots of poor quality shrimp out there, but in the end, it depends on your goals. Ideally, in my opinion, try to get the best quality shrimp that's within your price range. Some people want their shrimp to breed, and some don't. On average, the freshwater dwarf shrimp, neocaridina and caridina, live for about 2 years at most, and from around 8 weeks to 1.5 years old, that's the prime age for breeding. Starting with juvenile shrimp provides you with longer living shrimp. Adult shrimps don't adapt as well to new environments compared to juvenile shrimp. Another factor is mixed sexes. Ideally, it'll be 5:1 female to male ratio, but there are some unethical breeders that only sell males. Try to go with locally bred shrimp that you can inspect and that's used to the water in your area. Sometimes some exotic patterns can only be found in Asia and Germany, as their breeding methods are light year ahead of in my area, in North America. So in that case, you'll need to import. Be sure to start with enough shrimp, as they like to be with their friends. I don't recommend just buying a pair unless it's an exotic pattern that's not available. My typical number of shrimp to start a colony is 25 shrimp. Recently, somebody got 4 shrimp from me, and although they're high quality, they noticed that their shrimp is very shy and always hiding, even with the correct water parameters. They'll need their friends to feel safe. Quality matters, and it makes a difference. The next pillar is water parameters within range. Shrimp live and thrive within certain water parameters. Do your research carefully and don't rush into shrimp keeping. Although shrimp can live a pretty wide range of water parameters, I have an excellent video on this topic in detail. The shrimp ideal water parameters are more narrow than fish and plants. It's always to find out the water parameters of the source of your shrimp. Each breeder might keep the shrimp in slightly different water parameters. There are 3 main types: neocaridina, caridina, and Sulawesi. There's a few in between, but these are the main ones. Neocaridina loves harder water with a more neutral pH. Caridina shrimp loves a softer water with an acidic pH. And Sulawesi, they love a soft water and a higher pH water. Temperature makes a difference also. Caridina shrimp come from cooler streams, so their ideal temperature ranges are lower than neocaridina and Sulawesi. Please do your research on your type of shrimp that you'd like to get to ensure that your tank and environment is set up properly. Then try to match it to the source and the breeder. If you cannot, then I'd recommend a longer 3 to 4 hours drip acclimatization period. Some shrimp, for example, like the tangerine tiger and yellow king kong, does well in a wider range of water parameters than the Taiwan bee, caridina shrimp. To ensure that the water parameters are correct for caridina shrimp, you'll need an active substrate, which is required to buffer the water to the correct pH. You can also use products like SMW bioculture or CO2 to lower the pH. The unfortunate part about an active substrate is that it will exhaust and it will need to be replaced, a very annoying aspect of this hobby. There are other methods, for example the Asian underground filter box that makes it easier. I haven't tried this yet, but a few friends are trying this method and they're loving it. Adding 2 underground filter boxes and then hot swapping one each year makes it easier to maintain. A mature aquarium is necessary for shrimp to thrive. Although a cycled aquarium can be ready for shrimp right away, it might not be a mature ecosystem with microorganisms and bacteria to sustain a larger colony and their shrimplets. It's best not to rush into things, and this goes into my third pillar of successful shrimp keeping: patience. Patience can be interpreted in many ways. For example, don't rush into it, a mature aquarium versus a cycled aquarium. Patience can also mean finding a good source of shrimp instead of grabbing the first one that you see. Do some comparisons of the shrimp. And patience is not to overfeed and to feed according to your colony size and to remove any uneaten food after 1 or 2 hours. Also for patience, sometimes don't rush into things. The shrimp can breed eventually if they're within the ripe age. Another tip is using plants. Plants are a wonderful addition to your shrimp aquarium. Some plants do better with shrimp, and the ones I like to use are mosses, Bucophilandra, and Anubias. Stem plants are easy and great for neocaridina shrimp, but for caridina shrimp, they might help use up the nutrients from the active substrate, and some stem plants can grow 1 to 3 inches per day, so please be careful. The moss also contains microorganisms, bacteria, and hiding spots to make the shrimp feel safe. Fish. For a nice ecosystem, it's great to have a nice aquascape with rocks, wood, that's fully planted with fish and shrimp for a nice ecosystem. In the end, for fish, if it fits in their mouths, it'll probably get eaten. If you specifically want to breed shrimp, then don't add fish. But most people want a nice ecosystem in their living space. So in that case, start with the shrimp first, allow them to grow and have a nice colony with lots of hiding spaces. Afterwards, you can add some small fish, like microrasbora or chili rasboras. Those are some suggestions. Angelfish, cichlids, and discus will gobble up the shrimp right away, so that's not a great idea. Betta is very popular, but it's a 50-50 chance they'll go after your shrimp, so it really depends on the personality of your betta. Water changes are necessary to remove toxins and hormones in the tank. I personally only do 10% bi-weekly, and it's working for my 30+ colonies of shrimp. Some people like to do 20 or 50%, but that's not my style, as I like to keep it consistent. A lot of my breeder friends notice when they neglect or go on vacation, the shrimp tanks actually do better than them twinkling with their hands in the tank. Food. Don't overfeed and feed accordingly to the colony's size. Remove the food after 1 or 2 hours. Shrimp are scavengers and they will eat anything and everything, so you really don't have to spend money on exotic shrimp-specific food. But with that said, I personally do use shrimp-specific food and powders, about 30 of them in rotation. I'd recommend adding snails, specifically the blue or the red ramshorn snail. They can help clean up the uneaten food, and their poop contains beneficial bacteria that the shrimp like to feed on and they like. They're also fascinating to watch. I would avoid snails like bladder or pond snails and Malaysian trumpet snails, as they can get out of control very fast and very easily. Tank size. I'd recommend using 10 to 20 gallons, which is about 45 to 80 liters. The surface area is more important than the water volume, but the water volume dilutes any toxins and it stabilizes the water. If it's too small, for example 5 gallon, then the water won't be as stable, and there isn't enough space for the colony to grow massively. 40-gallon breeders and 75 gallons do work, but you'll need to start off with a lot of shrimp in the beginning so your colony will successfully grow. So for me, 10 to 20 gallons with 25 shrimp works well. TDS meters are a quick way to determine the hardness of your water at a glance, and it indicates when it's time to do a water change. For example, if the TDS creeps over 15 parts per million, then it's time to do a water change. GH and KH test kits are much more accurate than a TDS meter, but they do take a while to get the test result, so I personally like to use TDS meters. Be sure to wash your hands before working in your tank. Items like flea spray or hand sanitizers are toxic to shrimp and will kill them. That's quite a few tips that'll get you started in the right direction. Are there any other tips that you'd recommend for people starting out shrimp keeping? I love sharing my experiences, success and failures with everyone, and capturing my journey in planted shrimp tanks. Stay tuned for more informative videos. Thanks for watching and listening to my rambles. Have an awesome day.
Thanks for watching!